Hello, lovely. Before we hop into today's episode, I want to make a very special announcement for all my self aware single ladies who are ready to attract the love of their lives. If you've already tried all the things, like you read the books, you listened to the podcast, maybe you did therapy, yet you still can't seem to attract or keep an emotionally available man who's on your level, who's ready for commitment, and modern dating feels harder than ever, maybe even to the point that you are ready to swear it off, then we have just the thing for you. The Dating Decoded course is finally here. So, this course is going to help you demystify modern dating and uncover any blocks that are standing in the way of you calling in your man and creating your dream love life, because it's about time. All you got to do is go to datingdecodedcourse.com to grab the course and join the community. The link is also in the show notes, and I can't wait to see you inside. All right, enjoy today's episode. Hello, love. Welcome back to another episode of Aligned Attraction. I am again coming to you from my car. Something I'm thinking on right now. I'm listening to a podcast en route to this event, and it's a podcast featuring someone that I really admire in the business and coaching space, Brandon Lucero, and he is a master of messaging. But in the beginning of this episode, he's talking about his personal story. And what struck me was the responsibility that men carry in the world. And so in this episode, I want to really dive into men's perspective. Now, mind you, I have not ever had a man's perspective in this lifetime because I am a woman. That is how I identify. And I have had the great fortune of speaking to many men about what it's like to be a man in this day and age, particularly a man who is in partnership or wants to be in partnership with a woman and what that's like. Because as women, we know the burdens that we carry. We know and feel very deeply the societal shame around sexuality or the weight that we carry around body image and trying to be perfect, or this persona of independent woman who has to have it all figured out. We know what that burden is like. And sometimes it's tempting to say, you know what, a man is never going to know how I feel. A man's never going to know what this is like. And that's true. He's not. And men have their own unique set of burdens and responsibilities that they carry in this world as men. And I want to speak to some of that today. So I'm not going to obviously be able to cover everything that men feel or men think. And in fact, in future episodes, I'd love to have men on the show to speak to this directly from their personal experience. But in speaking to the men in my life recently and in hearing Brandon's story on this podcast episode, it really got me to reflecting and pouring my heart out to the responsibility and the burden that men carry, specifically in dating, love, and relationships. So let's speak to dating for a minute. I have a lot of single male friends who are on the apps, who are, dating, and there are a lot of considerations they have to make. And I'm sharing this because I want for all of us as women to really be able to open our hearts and empathize with their experience. Because after all, what do we want more than anything than for men to empathize with our experience and to know what it's like to be a woman who perhaps always has to look over her shoulder to make sure she's physically safe, a woman who carries the burden of really making sure a man's a right fit before sexually interacting, because quite literally, we're inviting a man into our body. So we carry all of these ideas and experiences with us. And of course, we want the men in our lives to understand and empathize. And men carry similar but different experiences. So, in speaking to my male friends recently, something that they have shared with me is that they really carry this responsibility. And for some, it feels like a heavy weight around finding and towing the line between being directive and masculine and clear in what they want and clear in their ability to lead on a date in the bedroom
So they're considering that because they want to be the masculine men that they are. And given where we're at in society right now as a collective, they also, many of them feel deeply afraid of doing or saying something to the extent that it causes a woman to feel unsafe or offended. And so now a lot of men are in their heads doubting, like, should I say this? Should I text her this? Should I make this move? And it's interesting because as women, most times we want a man to lead. We want a man to say, all right, this is where we're going. Show up at 7, wear a short dress because that's freaking hot. Like, wow, tell me where to be and when to be there. Yes, sir. And often when men go to take leadership like that, sometimes it gets shut down or it's not received well. Even if that's not what we want to do as women, it's not rejected compassionately. So there is a difference between saying, hey, you know what? Thank you so much for your leadership on this. And actually, what I would love instead is this. Are you open to that? That's a compassionate rejection. That is a redirection of what actually is in your pleasure as a woman. And often, because we're not given the tools to redirect energetically in that way, it's like energetic Aikido in the direction of our desires as a woman, because most of us are not connected to our desires nor our needs because we've been taught to disconnect from them. What we end up doing is just shutting it down, pulling away, withdrawing, giving mixed signals, not saying anything, but then having a cold energy. And then we don't really speak up. And then the man gets either signals of rejection, signals of mixed energy, signals of hot and cold. And likely what happens is he feels rejected or discouraged. And when that happens enough times, he loses confidence in being able to, be the masculine directive man that he wants to be and that you want him to be. And then we become frustrated because we're like, what the fuck, dude? Like, take some leadership. Come on. Like, I want a man up. And I don't want to place blame on men or women. There is men have a part in this, women have a part in this, but I'm speaking to our part because it's women who listen to this podcast. And so I've noticed that I've done this in my life, and I want to speak to that as well, where Ani will take leadership on something, and I don't like the way he's taking leadership, or it's not the way I would do it, or it's not good enough for me, or for, compared to whatever standard I have in my head, or the way a past partner or lover did it, or the way I saw someone else's partner do it. And I've had to really learn to mature out of some of my responses and reactions to him because what I want for him is to feel empowered in his masculinity. I want for him to feel empowered in giving direction and taking the lead. I want to be receptive to his leadership. And when I am not clear on my desires and when I don't give very clear, loving direction for my desires and for my needs, then he's left trying to read my mind and figure out what's going on. He's trying to please me because I tell you, ladies, 9 out of 10 men who are doing the inner work, who are just good quality men, even if they're not really doing a ton of inner work, good quality men with good values, they just want to please us. They really do. I promise you, they live to fulfill their purpose and to please us as women. Purpose and pleasing. They want us to be happy. They want us to be in our pleasure and they want to feel appreciated for that. And it's interesting because we've been raised in a society and we've had our own personal experiences where it hasn't been safe to trust men. Maybe we have wounding or trauma from the past. And so our responsibility now as women who want and deeply desire partnership with men who are leaders, who have purpose and direction in their lives, who are confident, who are clear, who have a very grounded, safe sense of masculine energy. Our part in that is to really encourage it and to give clear, compassionate feedback when something doesn't feel good for us, when it crosses a boundary, when it's not actually in the direction of our desires. So, our responsibility is to speak up for our needs, connect to our desires, so that we can help our men please us because they want to. I promise. They really, really do. So speaking to that burden that men carry around, you know, asking the question, what's too much direction and leadership? What's not enough? How can I please her? How can I make sure she's happy, she's safe, she's well, she's taken care of, she's pleasured, she's satisfied, she's content? Almost always they're asking this question. And that's a lot to contend with, especially if the woman they're dating or the woman they're in relationship is not giving clear direction. And I'll speak from personal experience. I have done this many, many times in my life, even with Ani. I'm expecting him to read my mind. He should just know. We've been together for years now. Shouldn't he know? I've told him this before. I don't need to tell him again. I want him to figure it out. He should know my body. We've already had this conversation. I'm not going to repeat myself. And I've seen myself get into this place of righteous indignation, and it doesn't set either of us up for success. I feel shitty and shut down. He feels rejected and pushed away. It's not creating the kind of intimacy that we want. He's doing everything to try his best. I'm not giving clear direction. I'm getting angry with him, and I feel frustrated that my needs aren't getting met, yet I'm not speaking up for them. And then it's just a shitty situation. And again, there is a part that men play for sure, especially if, they're not speaking to the fact that they feel rejected or shut down and coming to the table saying, "Babe, how can we make this work? This doesn't feel good for me. How can I please you? What is it you need?" Right? Men can certainly speak up in that way, but again, I'm not speaking to men on this podcast. I'm speaking to you, a woman. And I'm speaking from my own personal experience as a woman. So men carry this heavy responsibility because they're almost always contending with, how can I honor my own needs and boundaries and fulfill the needs and desires of my partner, of the woman I'm dating. So that's one. Men also really, really contend with how to keep us safe and protected. And for any man who's showing up in the world with values, with direction, with integrity, he's always scoping the scene for us. It's kind of like he's, as soon as we enter a room, he's checking where the exits are. He's scoping the people in the room. He's doing a safety check. He's patrolling the border. He's looking for a way to keep us safe and protected. And he is consistently and persistently looking at how to help us meet our needs. And sometimes that's going to come at the expense of our desires. In other words, sometimes Ani will Ani's the kind of man that is always, always, always acting in my best interest. My best interest and my needs and my safety comes first above his own because that's the kind of man he is. And I feel so freaking grateful for that. And sometimes what's in my best interest conflicts with what I want. And check and see if that's true for you. Sometimes what's in my best interest in business, in health, in life, conflicts with what I want in that moment. And because he has the sight to see what's there, because he's always looking out for what's in my best interest and prioritizing that, even above his own needs sometimes, he will give direction in favor of my best interest, my highest good. And again, it's not that he has that authority or that say over me. I can certainly say, like, no, I disagree, and here's what I'm going to do instead. Right? We have that fluidity and that flexibility in our dynamic. But I will tell you that 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, when he gives a direction that goes against what I want in that moment, he's almost always correct. And there's not a weird power dynamic here, because I used to think there was. But when I look back at the times when he has insisted on a decision, and I look at my stance on that decision, and I'm outside of the triggered, activated moment, I'm like, oh, damn, you know what? You were right. You have a good point. Like, I can see why you thought that this was a more sound decision than the one that I wanted to make. So thank you for having my back. And, not all men operate like this, and not all women have a desire or willingness to surrender to the direction of a man. But I will say, in speaking from personal experience, it's what so many of us crave and desire. We want to surrender to the leadership and direction of a man who is really grounded and clear, who we know has our best interests at heart, and whose leadership we trust. I can speak from personal experience that I've always wanted to trust in someone other than myself. I've deeply desired to surrender to someone because I don't want to have to fucking figure it out all the time. I'm already doing that 99% of the day in my life and business. I kind of want to just let my hair down and let someone else make the decisions for once. And when we do the inner work as women to create enough safety inside of ourselves to surrender to our own hearts, our own bodies, our own desires, and when we have a clear signal for that, and it's not an ego based decision or a decision that comes from wounding and past patterning that's not actually in our best interest, then we cultivate the ability to trust. And it makes it so much more natural to place trust in someone that has earned our trust and has earned our respect and admiration. And in speaking to so many of my clients and friends, we want to be with men that we respect and admire. Of course, we want to like them, we want to love them, we want to be turned on by them, we want to be attracted to them, but we also want to respect and admire them. Because as independent, powerful, strong women, if we don't respect a man, if we don't admire a man, then that relationship's not going to last for very long. So, really just coming back to the fact that men are really considering our safety, our needs, our desires, how to please us, how to protect us, how to provide for us, whether that's emotionally or financially, even if we can already provide for ourselves in those ways. It just feels really nice to also let someone else do that and show up for us. And so, our job as women is to do the work to uncover the blocks around receptivity. What is causing us to turn away from receiving provision from men in a way that would actually feel really good for us, in a way that we want deep down? And so, this is again not an extensive list by any means about the experience of men and what they have to consider in dating and relating to us as women, but it's just a very brief look into some of the really major things that men consider on a constant basis. And if we can use this opportunity to have compassion and empathy for them and really give credit where credit's due to the men who are really showing up, whether that's a brother, a friend, a coworker, a partner, a lover, someone we just met with whom we actually do feel really safe. The invitation here is to show some appreciation to the men in our lives today and to just use this as an opportunity to consider how some of the good men are really showing up. And if you don't have any personal experience with this yet, let this episode and these words be a way to have a reference point for what's possible in your interactions with men, whether it's romantic or not. There are men out there that really, really do show up like this. And I want you to know that it's possible for you to interact with these kinds of men and to call forth this king like energy in men. And how do we call forth the king? Then to embody the queen. The queen does not show up with entitlement or trying to push down her needs and make herself small and shrink, or by pointing the finger and blaming all men or the patriarchy, or even though, we have rightful cause sometimes to feel angry at the atrocities that have either happened to us or have happened in the world, there's a time and place for that vocal activation. And what I'm talking about right now is how can we call forth the goodness in men, the men who are ready to have that called forth in them and who want to embody that for us as women. So take this invitation today to know that it's possible to engage with men in this way, to know that we have a part in that, and so do they, and to show some appreciation. If there's a man in your life that you want to reach out to, send a text to, send a voice note to, give a call, schedule a coffee with, and just say, hey, I appreciate the way you show up in the world. Really causes me to feel safe as a woman. Really causes me to see that not all men are one way, or that there are really good men out there who live by values and have integrity and really care about the experience of women. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Do that today. I guarantee that it will just call forth even more of that man's king like masculinity, and he will just want to keep showing up for you like that. So that's what I've got today. I'm just arriving to day 3 of my event. I'm sending you so much love and good vibes. And of course, if you're ready for the deep dive, join us inside Aligned Attraction. This is our mentorship where you are receiving expert support from master intimacy coaches, Ani, myself. We're also trained psychedelic therapists. We dive really deep, and you're surrounded by awesome, badass women who are walking this path, doing the inner work to attract emotionally available, emotionally intelligent men who are ready for commitment, who want to provide and protect and lead in relationship, who have a clear vision for their lives and for the relationship. And so this is our mentorship. If you go to insidealignedattraction.com, all the information's there. The website's in the show notes. All right, love, that's all I have for you today. If something really resonated, post this on social media and tag me at Linoto_, and share it with a friend. Sending you so much love and good vibes.